Hi guys, and welcome to my new iRacing weekly series in which I will break down what you should race and what you should avoid on any given race week so you can best manage your time and best prepare for what is actually worth it. This week is particularly rough in terms of racing quality, and honestly it breaks what was a very strong start to Season 3. We had LMP3s at Le Mans, we had IMSA at Watkins Glen, we had GT3s at the Nürburgring, and many more. It was a great opening stretch, but week 2 has thrown us a few curveballs, so let's break down exactly what to avoid and what is actually worth your time this week. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Now, my number one pick to avoid this week is the IMSA series at Mobility Resort Motegi. This one probably won't surprise anyone who's been following the series or are series regulars in the IMSA racing world. And the numbers tell the story pretty clearly here. The last 2 times we raced at Motegi, in this series it was deeply unpopular. Back in 2025, Season 1, Week 2, it posted the 3rd worst participation of the entire season with just 4,817 unique drivers. Then in 2025, Season 3, Week 1, it clocked in 4th worst with only 2,900 drivers. And the only reason it wasn't 3rd again is that the track choices around it were also very poor. Now, what does it mean for you practically? Low participation in a series like IMSA has a double-edged effect that is worth understanding. On one hand, the racing quality drops significantly. Fewer drivers means fewer splits, which often means unbalanced lobbies and races that feel chaotic or hollow. You're unlikely to see more than 2 or 3 splits at peak hours, and most of the week you'll be running on a single split. And if you're trying to race at off-peak hours like late night or early morning, there is a genuine chance some time slots simply won't fire at all. No splits means no race, and that's very frustrating when you've planned your time around racing. On the other hand, and this is where it gets interesting for some of you guys, low participation weeks can actually be a hidden opportunity for certain types of drivers. If you're sitting in a lower I rating bracket and you've been struggling to gain safety rating or move your I rating up, a thin field with less competition can paradoxically work in your favor. You're not racing against the same volume of experienced high I rating drivers that you would in a well-attended series, so if SR grinding is your goal this week, maybe keep this track in the back of your mind. But for the majority of you watching this, looking for clean, competitive, and satisfying racing, I would simply say, just skip it. My first choice for this week in the Tour Race category is the iRacing Porsche Cup at Fiji International Speedway GP. And I want to explain exactly why this one made the list despite its modest historical numbers. Historically, Fiji has appeared in this series several times. In 2022, Season 3, Week 3, it pulled 2,600 unique drivers, and in 2022, Season 4, Week 5, it climbed slightly to 3,142 unique drivers. Those are not blockbuster numbers. The series itself only scores a 42 out of 100 in terms of competitiveness, which puts it in the lower tier. So you could ask yourself the question, why is it on my to race list? The reason is simple. We have never run the new 992.2 Porsche here with ABS enabled, and that changes things more than you might expect. Fiji is a track that rewards very precise braking. The high-speed braking zones are unforgiving, and Sector 3, with its tight, twisty sequence of corners, used to separate drivers very quickly. ABS takes some of the raw edge of that challenge, making it more accessible without dumbing it down entirely. For drivers who have historically struggled in that final sector, this is genuinely your best opportunity to find some time and compete more confidently and on a consistent basis. And for experienced drivers, the challenge now shifts slightly. It's less about surviving the braking zones and more about optimizing your trail braking and exit speed with a system that won't let the car lock up underneath you. The track itself, despite the series score, actually carries a competitive rating of 65 out of 100 on its own, which is notably higher. That tells you the track produces good, close racing. The series around it, unfortunately, just hasn't consistently attracted massive fields. Expect mostly 2 splits, with the occasional 3rd at peak times and maybe a rare 4th even if conditions align on a busy evening. It's not a headline week for the Porsche Cup, but I do believe it's an interesting one for the right reasons. Now the second one to avoid this week, and this one is genuinely puzzling to me as a track choice, Oran Park Raceway in the GP layout used for both GT Sprint and GT3 Fixed. Oran Park is a track that in iRacing has historically been associated with smaller, lower-powered rookie-class cars. It's a short, tight circuit that suits cars where you're learning fundamentals, track position, consistent braking, late apexing. So to see it appear for GT3 Fixed is frankly out of place. This is not a track that has been featured before in the GT3 Fixed rotation, and it shows a lack of fit between car and circuit. The GT Sprint history here is equally discouraging. The last time Oran Park was used for GT Sprint was back in 2021 Season 1 Week 6, over 4 years ago, and even then it posted the worst participation numbers of that entire season, with only 6,444 unique drivers. For context, the GT Sprint series regularly pulls over 15,000 unique drivers on a strong week. 6,000 is not simply 1/3 of it, it is straight up underperforming and a significant drop. The track itself is not actually bad. If you've never driven it, you'll actually discover the interesting challenges of the GP layout, and there's something enjoyable about learning a circuit that doesn't get much attention, but enjoyable in private testing and enjoyable on an AI race like in this footage right here does not mean it will be enjoyable in a race week setting. When you've got GT3 cars designed for flowing, high-speed circuits being thrown around a tight, bumpy club track, the racing experience will suffer. Unless you have a specific personal reason to run here, SR grinding, track exploration, or just straight up curiosity, I'd leave this one completely alone. And here is the big one this week. And honestly, given how poor most of the other choices are, this is not a difficult recommendation at all. It's the Sports Car Challenge by Falken Tires at Watkins Glen. Let's look at the historical numbers first because they speak for themselves. In the past 5 seasons that this track and car combo was used, Watkins Glen is in the top 3 most used tracks, appearing 5 times total, and every single time it has delivered strong to excellent participation. In most seasons, this week ranks as one of the most popular of the entire season, usually only beaten by tracks like Daytona or Road Atlanta. That consistency over multiple years is not an incident. Here's the thing. This race comes directly off the back of the 6 hours of Watkins Glen special event that just happened this past weekend. So a lot of drivers have fresh laps on this circuit, they know the lines, they know where the traffic patterns develop, and they already have worked through the rust of multi-class awareness. I believe that it will elevate the quality of the field, at least in the opening days of the week. And I personally love the LMP3. It's a car that rewards commitment on entry, commitment on the throttle, commitment on the brakes, trusting aero that you can't quite see, but you can absolutely feel when turning in. And at Watkins Glen, that commitment gets tested through the bus stop, the S's, and the long run to the boot. Given that most of the competition this week is weak, IMSA at Motegi and GT3 at Oran Park, I fully expect this series to pull above its historical average. I'd estimate over 15,000 unique drivers, possibly pushing higher as people who would have normally spread across multiple series consolidate here. If you only have one thing to raise this week, I believe that this is it. So there it is. That's your breakdown for week 2 of season 3. to avoid: Motegi and IMSA and Oran Park for the GT cars, and 2 recommendations in the Porsche Cup at Fiji and the Sports Car Challenge at Watkins Glen. The week is uneven, but there is still good quality racing to be found if you know exactly where to look. So with that being said, I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.